approaches are celebrated rather than discouraged. Anticipate change. Always anticipate change. And so monitor industry trends and technology advancements. Assess the effectiveness of your current strategies. Encourage team members to share insights and observations. Overcome fear. A paralyzing fear of the unknown hinders personal and professional growth. So don't fear. Paul faces his fears by venturing into the unknown parts of the maze, realizing that overcoming fear is essential for discovering new opportunities and achieve success. So please create a supportive, safe environment. Coach and mentor individuals to navigate and overcome fears, and acknowledge and celebrate instances where individuals overcome challenges. Enjoy change. So foster a culture that values innovation and creativity, and encourage team members to share success stories. And highlight the positive outcomes and growth. I like this one. Smell the cheese often. Just like sniff and scurry, regularly monitor changes in your environment. This means staying alert to potential changes so you can anticipate and prepare for the future. So you must scan your environment. What we learn in entrepreneurship. Look at your pricing of your product. Look at the value. Look at your market segmentation. Look at your niche. That is smelling the cheese. So keep a watchful eye on your surroundings. Also keeps you primed to make timely decisions. And then, of course, if you are going to smell the cheese, please remember continuous monitoring of key metrics in your industry, in your area, and conduct regular check-ins to assess the effectiveness of the strategies. Innovate and experiment. There is no harm. Innovate and experiment. Set aside a time for brainstorming and idea generation. Recognize and reward innovative solutions and approaches. And then learn for change. So what we are doing now, we are learning for change. Many of us, when we grew up, the most technical tool we used was a slide rule, then the log tables in maths. But look at what has happened with the computers and the statistical packages and all these things. So learn for change. Every change brings valuable lessons. So very, very important. And encourage a culture of continuous improvement all the time. If you are going to manage change. So this is a very interesting little book that has great lessons in your journey to happiness, to success, to wealth, to intellectual growth, and even to bring up your families. Is a very, very rich lesson. I would like to stop there before we pray, and if I could have one or two reactions on this small, iconic fable, Who Moved My Cheese?
Feel free to raise your hand, or you can open your mic as you join in. Amande.
Amande, yes. There's Amande and
there's Amande. Amande, thank you so much.
There's Amande and there's Pamela Otieno. Please go on, take it up.
Okay. Thank you so much, Professor. For me, it is a blessing to be in your seminar.
Yes.
I'm happy that you have brought the substance of this book. I have read it 1 year ago, and I found myself like one of those characters, especially those who don't accept the change. When I was about to leave my country to come in Kenya, I was not happy at all. And even when I was here, I was never happy because I felt like I have lost something. For me, my cheese is back. Yet I was here, but all my mind was there. And I missed many opportunities. Hopefully, when I read this book, I start reflecting.
Yeah.
And many other circumstances helped me to get in this program of development study. And I'm now enjoying the new cheese.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
The new cheese.
The new cheese.
Are you the student?
The one from Chad.
Oh, the one from Chad, the lawyer.
Yes.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Welcome to Kenya and welcome to Daystar and welcome to the new cheese. Our cheese is
so
better
much.
than the
I'm
one in
really
Chad.
blessed.
Yeah. Okay. Pamela Otieno, I can see you have the book. No, it's Brenda Kinyi who has the book already. She's holding it in her hand. Pamela Otieno.
Good evening, Prof, and thank you very much for sharing this. In fact, for me, this is a very motivational speech from you because I can just, it is taking me back where I've come from. I can remember there are so many people whom we were, if in fact even some of my supervisors were ahead of me, but now I decided to leave them. By the way, for me, I started from certificate because of money. Then I went to diploma, from diploma, undergraduate, master's. I've never stopped. And here I am. Even when I registered for this PhD, some were telling me, where are you going to get money? Remember, you have children whom you are educating and orphans. Where are you going to get money? Then what I said, God will provide. Because I saw how God started providing for me, in fact, from diploma, because now diploma is where you start using a lot of money. And at the same time, I had 4 children. One was in Moi. In fact, he was one of your students in medical school.
Okay.
And he really talks about you well. And now he's in Texas doing his master's in pediatrician.
Wow.
So I've been struggling and God has been providing. So this one, if you talked about this, I just see I'm like one of this team. And again, I find it is very important right now. Most of donors funding has been cut down. In fact, last is it this week on Thursday, our executive director talked to us and he said the funds has been cut down and many people will go home. So where we are just expecting who is going to receive a letter next month. But for me, I said, God has been on my side and this will not stop me. So this talk, I think it should be directed to some of us and it can really help because I know right now people are asking, where am I? Because some people are at their comfort zone. Some do not even have money. Some people are having loans, and now they are asking themselves, and they'll not change. Is something which is it's not easy with everyone, and I really feel for them because for me, I know I've been living in the world of struggling for the fittest. So in fact, what I've called myself intermediate and say, I'm going to talk to my HR if we can invite you to give us a speech. It can really encourage people. Thank you.
Wow, you have made my evening. Thanks. I think that's the purpose of a PhD master's program. So we are not digressing. I'm ready for chapter 3 to finish it off today. The slides and then start constructing chapter 3. We will need a 3rd seminar, and it's because we'd like to get it right. But I would like to invite Prof. Dr. Moni Wekesa. Can you add some substance to this discussion? Who moved my cheese? And your experience, because I know the 2 doctorates, I know the journey you've gone through. I know not so long ago you were shortlisted for the very high post of the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya. Does this align?
Yeah, thank you, Prof.
Go ahead.
Prof. Moni, you have moved. Yeah, you want to get a better place to talk? We've lost you.
Observing it, following it, looking for it.
Okay.
We keep losing Prof.
I can see the class is now 106 already, 7 is coming up. That's good.
Prof.
Good evening.
Oh, we lost. You lost him. Yes, Professor Dima.
Yeah, yes, thank you, Prof, for
Abraham, you're on this call.
Yes, I am.
It would be nice if they can also put on their videos as we spotlight them.
Karibu sana. When did you come from Australia?
I came last week on Friday.
Okay, karibu sana.
Yeah, I was going to say thank you for that talk about change, who moved my cheese. And I want to add a voice there that the two guys that were left in the maze, Hem and Haw, the children of the author of this book, that's Spencer Johnson, after his demise, they sat together and they thought they should get these two characters out of the maze. So there's a small book they wrote, Out of the Maze, a follow-up to a follow-up to Who Moved My Cheese, and very great lessons about change and doing the extraordinary. As you know, it was Hem that was really stuck in there. But finally, they got him out with some great lessons. I would recommend it.
Thank you. Is back?
Yeah, thank you, Prof. I'm a little disadvantaged. I've logged in from Navajo and the internet is not very stable. But then I was just saying that the lesson for me from that book is that we should not wait to follow the cheese, smell it, see it change color and so on. But we should be on the forefront of moving the cheese so that we determine where the cheese is all the time. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much. I'm also in Kisumu. My class, I'm away in Kisumu. Tomorrow we have a very interesting meeting at Nyangori. My church, PAG church, is in conflict, so I'm among the team that is trying to bring the factions together. So I'm in Kisumu today and tomorrow. But yeah, thank you for those comments. So I would like us to remember that. But I would also want to spend just 1 minute, not 1 minute, about 5 minutes on some thoughts related to this. And I would like to say this. What Professor Wekesa is saying, and Professor Waithima, those of you on the line, Professor Waithima has been our director of ODEL, but has just gotten promotion to become DVC academic at St. Paul's. So we are very proud of him.
DLPDI, Prof.
Yeah, DLPDI, sorry. And is now a DVC, is moving to be a deputy vice chancellor. So we are happy. And you can see the spirit of togetherness in Daystar. Even when you get to go, Daystar is still home. You still want to associate with it. I want to talk about that we all grew up in one moral ecology or another. Moral ecology. We all create microcultures around us by the way we lead our lives and the vibes we send out to those around us. And this is very significant for you, particularly, not just the students, to all of us, me included, and the faculty. So one of the greatest legacies a person can leave on this earth is a moral ecology. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about a system of belief and behavior that lives on after they die. Yeah, so what Prof was suggesting, you are actually the one moving the cheese. That can be your moral ecology. What is your sense of timeliness in your various stations? Do you have a completion factor mentality that anything you embark on, you want to see it done? Do you have some standards in how you dress, in how you talk, in what you admire and what you don't like, and how you define your ultimate purpose in life? Otherwise, you'll end up drifting in life. You end up drifting in life. And so it is incumbent upon us to worry about our moral ecology. And even when you look at, people keep talking about Africa and unstable political systems and so on. You know, you're looking at people in their present state. But did we have it? You saw when the Queen died, Queen Elizabeth, some of us were glued to TVs and people were saying, you know, you have colonialized minds. But it was not that. I was looking at the Victorian morality and trying to see aspects that we could pick with its strict codes of propriety and respectability. There's something you learn. So yesterday at Rusinga, I saw rituals, I saw culture, and that constitutes the moral ecology, not only of you as an individual, but also your society. And I would like my class, my master's students and PhD, to begin to have a mindset where you really would like to have a defined moral ecology, so that when your name is mentioned, what goes through people's minds in terms of your moral ecology and your contribution, because that will be your legacy. And you know, it will not come if you don't embrace change. It will not come if you are not transformational. So I would like to emphasize that. Secondly, and this is part of the philosophy of our class, I want to talk a little about commitment. Commitment, because I see us getting into dangers. Yesterday, you know, this whole week I've been looking at the students I supervise. And I'm getting very nervous. My colleague, professors and faculty, I can see quite a number on this call. I'm getting very nervous about our level of commitment. And what I'm seeing is we might be in danger of having students or having products who have not embraced the virtue of commitment. And me, I think commitment comes out of love for what you're doing. So I asked myself, why are students doing their PhD? Why are you doing your PhD? You know, you made individual choices when you were at high school, you did your first degree, you got a job, you got married, and now you're deciding to do a PhD. So it seems that you want to climb a second mountain in life. And me, I think a second mountain is a veil of promise making. You really want to do something. It's about making commitments, tying yourself down and giving oneself away. It is about surrendering the self and making the kind of commitment that in the Bible, Ruth made to Naomi. Where you go, I'll go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I'll be buried. So what is your level of commitment, even as we go through this? What is your level of commitment? Why, for example, am I still very disturbed and going into fundamentals about how does a student write chapter 3? Just like we did with the literature review. And there's nothing that is driving me into this. I've made a commitment, a veil of promise making that we must produce graduates from Daystar who are of a certain quality. So, ladies and gentlemen, I've talked about moral ecology, which will guide, which is your belief system, but I'm also talking about commitment. Once the heart has fallen in love and has acknowledged that love, then, and has acknowledged that love for your studies, then the soul feels a powerful urge to make a promise to it. Yes. Then it doesn't matter how much Professor Waidima puts you through in statistics. It doesn't matter how much Professor Wekesa or Dr. Chongo or Dr. Lydia Radoli or Dr. Sitati. It doesn't matter how much they throw at you. If you have fallen in love with what you're doing, in other words, wanting to finish your master's and PhD, you'll acknowledge that and you'll keep your promise to it. So maybe I'll find some time later on to talk about this. And I think for me, a commitment is a promise made from love. A commitment is making a promise to something without expecting a return out of sheer lovingness. This applies to us as faculty, and this applies to you as our student. So there's something that feels almost involuntary about a deep commitment. Yes. Because it happens when some person, some lecturer, some student, or course or field of research has become part of your identity. You have reached what we call the point of double negative, where you say, but I can't do this. Why can't you do this? Because I'm the one in charge of these students. Dr. Wanyonyi, I'm the one in charge. I'm now the Deputy Director of Graduate Studies. I can't do this. I must follow this up. And so let us run away from these contracts. A contract is a transaction. You give me this, I'll give you this. A covenant is a relationship. And that's what I'm calling upon data faculty and our students. A covenant, a relationship. Or put it a little differently, a contract is about interests. A covenant is about identity. Because this student will never be the same again. Job Namai, this student will never be the same again because he met you and you are the supervisor. So a covenant is about identity. It's about you and me coming together to form an us. An us, me and you, we want to finish this program. And that's why I keep telling people contracts benefit, but covenants transform. So I just thought we would engage with this slightly. I might pick it up next time because I think there is power in commitment. There is power in commitment. I've just said the commitment gives us our identity. When you are that lecturer who moves students, but if you are that lecturer who allows anything to pass in a defense. So I was telling you, I was looking at work people have done. And quite frankly, it is very scary. The fundamentals we are talking about, if your objectives are not aligned to your topic, if your objectives are not derived from your problem statement, what are you studying? It is very scary. And this is at PhD level, where you are supposed to not just add knowledge, but improve practice. So maybe next time we will carry this conversation around commitment, the value of commitment. And then I'll want to know how many of you have seen the light. How many of you have, in quotes, you have your own small demon that drives you, and people keep wondering, what drives this person? Why is this person always like, why is she bothered in supervising these students constantly? Why is she so worried? Once you have attained, you have that small demon that drives you. You are obsessed about it. That then will lift the level of commitment of us as a university and you as an individual. So, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to move to chapter 3. And what I want to do is chapter 3, I want to finish the slides I was going through. And then I want to start on the mechanics of constructing chapter 3. And then in seminar 3, we shall now look for examples from communication, look at communication and bring a prototype of a chapter in a topic in communication, in psychology, in business, in policy, in leadership, and then we shall release you to start bring out your proposals or refining your proposals, because I know some of you are already at your proposal level. So let me share this. And I want to do some little recap. Yes. I want to do some little recap.
I win. Prof, as you share, Professor Lange from Howard University joined in today.
Yeah, welcome. Welcome, Langmia, and everybody. Welcome. And this is a seminar, so we shall all be making contributions as we go along. So just give me a minute. I'm trying to look for.
As Prof shares, feel free to raise your hand using the if you read any question. And of course, our faculty, you contribute, and students, sorry for late sharing of the link, but you can let your colleagues know we are on.
Yeah, but I'm happy that we are now at 1:45. At least that's good. I want to recap one or two things here from what I did in the last class, and then I will go on to data analysis, going through the framework, and then after that we shall begin to look at the architecture of chapter 3. But I think it is important for all of us to note this. Research is scientific, and it is about scientific reasoning or logic. You can either pick a general theory and relate it to specific observation to validate that theory, as shown here. Sorry about that. I'm trying to do something that I shouldn't be doing. Okay. That you can have a confirmation of a theory from your own observations, and that is deductive reasoning. From a general theory, and then you do experiments, you observe, and you validate that theory. So if you are in education and you're looking at the education production function model of Hanushek, that is a general theory, and now you come to Kenya and you look at the junior secondary school program, and you look at the variables, you collect data around them, and from that, you see the specific observation that relates to the education production function model. I'm sure you have heard of this swan. There's a long story here, the black swan. You know, all swans are white. All swans are white. And then one day you are in Naivasha or you are in Lake Huntington in Uganda, and you see a black swan. That dismantles that theory. Maybe you should look at the black swan theory around research when you have your own time. If you are a qualitative researcher, like Langmia here, you go and do specific observations about certain phenomena. You then engage in inductive reasoning, and you begin to give us ideas, models that lead to a theory. So formation of a theory grounded in your own observations. And this is logical. And this young-looking man is the one who came up with the black swan theory. And then I've put that in question marks, that those of you who will engage in deductive reasoning, you are quantitative. And those of you who will engage in inductive reasoning, you are qualitative. But the bigger picture here is that you are moving, if you are qualitative, you are moving from specific observations around a phenomenon, for example, and whichever phenomenon, poverty, drug and substance abuse, cultural practices among the Maasai, and you then give us a theory. So formation of theory grounded in your own observations, that is qualitative thinking. I've put a question mark there. Confirmation of a theory from your own observations, that should be quantitative. So if I'm going to validate a certain model, I'll do observations, but I'm using them, put them through some statistical analysis and say, yes, the theory stands. I think that's very important as we sit in chapter 3. Very, very important. I want to repeat this until the cows come home. In quantitative research strategy, investigation aims to assess a pre-stated theory, a pre-stated model, some pre-stated thinking. So it is deductive reasoning. Often involves a hypothesis testing, attempts to minimize the influence of the researcher on the outcome. You are independent of the process. I was also very, and I see we are now about 150. I get very distressed when you have, if you are doing a quantitative study, if you are doing a mixed method study, and I see your research questions, and then I ask you, out of these research questions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which one will be suitable to craft a hypothesis from? And, you know, it is very sad when you cannot see that a hypothesis is about a relationship. It's about a relationship. So you either say it doesn't exist or it exists. So then, because you have 5 research questions and you're doing quantitative study, you then give me 5 hypotheses. Even when you are identifying the occurrence of something or you are assessing, you are still constructing a hypothesis. That tells me a lot about your research mind. It attempts to minimize the influence of the research on the outcome, and quantitative data infers statistics. And that's why, my colleagues from Daystar, we must deliberately recruit staff with a very heavy bias to statistics, because it doesn't matter whether you'll go qualitative, but you must have a feel of the fundamentals of statistics, because you are becoming a researcher and tomorrow you are bidding for a proposal that requires both quantitative and qualitative data for analysis. So data collection, therefore, requires closed responses. So the kind of data you collect will be from closed items on a questionnaire. With a qualitative research strategy, investigation aims to create a novel theory. And we have had many moments with Langmi about the grounded theory. And I keep telling Langmia, for you as an intellectual, it sounds good, but we must bring our students to your level in our teaching of research methods, so that they can also be able to do inductive reasoning from observation and have the courage to crystallize some ideas that can become a model, then become a theory. It is not easy. Researcher becomes an inherent part of the study. So we must have this. You must have the fundamentals in place. And that is ethnography, or an ethnographic study, where you sit in that situation. So if you are studying a certain phenomenon, you sit in that study. If you are studying about poverty or substance abuse in the slums of Nairobi, you must sit in that situation. If you are looking at circumcision among certain tribes in Africa, you must sit in that situation from the time the initiation period starts up to the end. Qualitative data infers complex statements or opinions. So Biero, I'm coming back to you. I see your hand is up. Qualitative data infers complex statements or opinions. I want to emphasize here, and I would like my colleagues to come in. You can only attain the level of mastery, the level of artistry to be able to infer complex statements or opinions if you read extensively your literature review around your area of study. It can't be a casual approach. And data collection therefore permits open responses, which you then follow them up until you get the meaning of the respondent. What is the respondent trying to say? So Biero, the floor is yours.
Yes,
is it
thank
Biero?
you, Prof. And
yeah.
I hope I'm loud enough.
Yeah, you are very clear. Go ahead.
Thank you, Prof. And we want to appreciate you at this juncture.
Yes.
My question goes straight so that I don't, in the interest of time, is that we are actually harvesting knowledge. That having said, I would have wished, because most studies that we are reading from articles, from leaders, from people who are authorities in all these obvious qualitative and quantitative studies, they don't reach a point whereby they agree on concepts in terms of theoretical models, theoretical frameworks, models, and conceptual framework. Maybe probably, Prof, with your experience and with all your knowledge, you would easily, incisively mention to us how the model works in a dissertation, how the theoretical framework works in a dissertation, how a conceptual framework is supposed to be informing our dissertation, and how do they relate? That would be my question. And thank you very much for your time and your work, your Lord's work, we could say.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's a valid concern. The coordinator, Dr. Mwaka, please pick that up. There are certain aspects that are being repetitive. People would like us to go over them. We try to do that in the literature review chapter. We will do it again. That's very interesting that you have brought that up, because I have a PhD student who has just sent me the chapter 2. And in looking at the chapter 2, he's done a lot of work. But how he brings the theory into the space is a struggle. So I'm reading through it, and I'm glad you have brought that up. The conceptual framework isn't much of a problem, but how do you convince us that your study will be anchored in the dimensions of this theory or that model? Even more difficult. And Professor Langmia, you are here, and Wekesa, you are here. You are all in the domain of qualitative. I would like you to join this seminar and come up in our seminar 3 and help my students understand why must they engage with the literature in that space, even if they're being inductive, moving from observation into some ideation and into a theory. I think that's something we need to get into, but thank you very much. The choice of strategy. I'm recapping actually what I did last time. It is based on the epistemology. How should we be attempting to assess knowledge? Epistemology, the construction of knowledge. That will determine the strategy we're going to use. And we did mention positivism explains a phenomenon. Interpretivism or constructivism helps us understand a phenomenon from responses from the respondents. So we get perspectives from the people we are collecting data from, but being constructivist and interpretivist, we must be conscious that we are actually the instrument for data collection. And so how do we then contain our bias and our influence? Ontology is essentially, anytime I think about ontology, I ask myself, does the data exist in a tangible or an intangible way? If it is in an intangible way, it means there'll be very many perspectives around the constructs and the variables we are looking at. If it is tangible, then it is objective, it is devoid of values, and we can measure it. So, my colleagues and my students, this is how your research strategy will be developed. So I would like you to have the courage to talk about the philosophical underpinnings of the study. That's why I'm repeating this again. And objectivism, explain independent external outcomes, that is ontology, and constructivism or constructivist, understand how social factors interact. And by the way, both of these are very important because a human being is a social being. So there are many factors of interaction, but there are also external realities which this human being is exposed to. Study in the natural sciences often requires a positivistic epistemology and an objectivistic ontology. Again, as research students delve into understanding these constructs, study in the social sciences often requires an interpretive epistemology and a constructivist ontology. And we know that study in natural sciences then will be equal to quantitative. That study in social sciences will be qualitative. But now we also know that there is a debate paradigm, what our last student contributed, of life is a continuum. Life is not about a North Pole and a South Pole, where the North Pole is positivist or quantitative, and the South Pole is constructivist or qualitative. So, however, it is occasionally possible to combine these strategies by coding qualitative data quantitatively. Yeah, you're actually combining when we do coding of qualitative data quantitatively. I just want to, this is basic, this is arithmetic, this is in class 4. This reminds me of my primary teacher. He was called Festus Mbeyo. And he was also the headmaster of the primary school called Igunga Primary. And his office was 2 classes away from our class. And we used to have multiple table questions. Remember, every maths book had a multiple table behind. And so Mbeyo would start, when he's in his office, he would start with question 1. 2 times 4 equal to. Then number 2, 6 times 3 equal to. Number 4, 4 times 4 equal to. By the time he's reaching the door, by the time he's reaching our door, he's on number 6. He's on number 6. And that means everybody in the class will get 4 canes. So we start at number 5. Some of us knew maths is coming, arithmetic is coming. We start at number 5. And then he goes on to 12. So already you know you have 5 canes. If you are very bright, you already have 5. And then the ones you will do, you get 7. So you get 5 canes. If you are good in maths. But there were those, first of all, the 5 was definite. They did not hear when he started the first question. And then even the other questions he's giving us is Greek. And I remember those days in Igunga Primary. And I'm not talking about Igunga Primary. I'm talking about ontology and epistemology. I remember the girls in our class were big. I don't know what has happened to the female gender nowadays. They were big. I was a very small little boy. So I would get the 7 Psalms. And there was somebody else, Japhet Mutange, who would almost get 8. So he starts with us, the canes. No, we were the last to be caned when he's tired. He actually did not want to cane us. But then I would have another session with those girls when we were going home. They would pinch my ears in class to say, Leo utaona, you have made us get 12 canes. Unajionyesha wewe ndio unajua hesabu. So I hope, in this class, nobody is going to get canes for not understanding philosophical underpinnings, because I've gone over this over and over again. So ontology plus epistemology gives us the research philosophy, and the research philosophy we have discussed. You are either a positivist or a constructivist or a pragmatist. Ontology is about what is reality, what shapes reality, and what is the relationship between each component. Ontology they believe that there's only one reality, singularity. They believe that there are multiple realities of truths, particularly when you become qual, and they believe that reality can be one or many. So those are beliefs around ontology. So when we talk about a chair in Africa and a chair in White House in the US, and a chair in a Maasai Boma, the ontology, the reality of a chair is definite. So there is a reality around what a chair should be, but there are multiple realities and truths also around a chair. How many have seen coffins in Ghana? You know, in Ghana, if you are driving a V8 on this earth, when you die, they'll make a coffin that looks like a V8. And if you are somebody who likes fishing, they will do a coffin that looks like a boat. So there are multiple realities. So it can be one or many. But what is the reality of that item we are talking about. So ontology believe that there's only, they believe that there's only one reality, singularity. So one universal truth, one reality for any specific group. So there is singularity of thought around ontology. But they also believe that there are multiple realities or truths around a given entity. And they also believe that the reality can be one or many of different shapes and sizes. So now it is up to the epistemologist or the epistemology that will now define how we say what a chair is. So epistemology, how do we know about reality or truth, and how we receive or know knowledge? So epistemology believes knowledge can be measured using scientific rules, using reliable tools and designs. They also believe knowledge is interpretive in nature, so needs to be interpreted or explained. They also know that knowledge should be examined using tools, scientific design, or interpreted. That is the epistemological position or thinking in research. So I want you to note that generally ontology plus epistemology, this is not absolute truth, but relates to the research philosophy. Now, when you believe there is only one reality measured using multiple tools and designs, you are a positivist. When you believe there are multiple realities and knowledge to be interpreted or explained, then that is constructivism. But when you believe that there are multiple realities, but examine using scientific designs or interpretation and can be measured and interpreted, then that is pragmatism. What am I saying? I am saying, as a master's and PhD student, you must be at home with the philosophical underpinnings of research, because they then lead you to your research design. So in conclusion, this recap: ontological stance, singularity or singular reality, multiple, singular and multiple. Epistemological stance can be measured. Even this one can be measured. It can also be measured and interpreted. And the research philosophy is positivism, constructivism, or pragmatism. So here, the conclusion is this: one reality, measurable using tools and designs, positivism. Multiple realities, interpretation, constructivism. One or many, examined, measured, or interpreted, pragmatism. And this is a summary of what I've just said, so I'll not go through that again. Now, what am I doing here? I am taking you back to Igunga Primary in Mbeyua's class in maths. And I will see it when I'm looking at your chapter 3. Then I will know whether you deserve 5 canes or 12, a dozen. And whether there is collateral damage to those who will have done well and you not have done well. Let's go to data analysis. This is where we had paused last time. I'm just going through the framework. Please be careful. I'm going through the framework, then I want to do the mechanics, the actual construction of a chapter 3. So data analysis, and I want you to note that before that, we had, maybe I should just, let me just go back very quickly to where we were, just to bring people up to speed, that we were looking at philosophical underpinnings, a research methodology from the underpinnings to the unit of analysis, understanding the foundations of research. And we did the overview of research methodology chapter. What is it about? I brought the iceberg metaphor for research methodology. So what is methodology? Methodology is method plus philosophy plus logic plus assumption. And the tip that you see, the tip of the iceberg here, is your methods. But you don't just talk about quantitative, qualitative, or mixed methods without understanding the evolutionary processes that led to that. And then we looked at philosophical underpinnings, what I've been trying to revise just now. Influence of philosophy. We gave the philosophical underpinnings diagram. You can see positivism, interpretivism, constructivism, and pragmatism. I expect my PhD students to get into interpretivism. I would excuse my master students if they stopped at constructivism. I then gave you this slide. I'm going to repeat it at the end, the whole picture. This is a mind map of research methods or research methodologies. We looked at the research approaches, quant versus qual, and mixed methods. Alvin, Mwabu, you have a question? Go ahead.
Good evening, Prof.
Good evening.
My name is Alvin Mwabu.
Yes.
And I've been following you very keenly since when we began.
Yes.
And actually, what I do every evening on a Saturday such as this,
yes,
I open my file where my proposals are.
Yeah.
And then as you're teaching, I'm picking each point at a time.
Yes.
So that I follow precisely of what you're teaching us.
Yes.
I just have one question regarding the when we are drafting our research methodology, do we reference anything in the research methodology?
Do we do citations?
Any referencing?
Yes.
In-text referencing?
Yes. Yes, and that's why after this, when I start looking at the actual, how do you write the overview of chapter 3? How do you do philosophic underpinnings and research design? We shall have citations. How do we do the research methodology itself? So we'll come to that, yeah.
Asante.
Okay, very good. So we then looked at the research design, the importance, the types, the factors influencing the research design. The most critical factor is the research question and objectives. Please remember that. And I'll be tracking your thesis. I'll be looking at your introduction. I'll jump to the problem statement. I'll look at your objectives. I will run quickly to the literature review to see how much literature you have covered around your objectives. Then I'll go to chapter 3. Research strategies, we gave those just examples and when to use each strategy. And then advantages and disadvantages of the case studies, survey, grounded theory, ethnography, action research. I did urge many of you to be courageous enough to go into action research as PhDs. I would like to see some of you do grounded theory and, you know, an established expert in that area. And I would also want us to do some meta-analysis, at least one or two from this class. Data collection, We went through primary and secondary data, qualitative methods, interviews, focus groups, surveys, experiments, questionnaires, consideration in choosing the methods. And then I gave you a mind map of the data collection methods as shown. And then we went to sampling techniques. We looked at different types of sampling, both probability and non-probability, and we gave you the mind map. And then determining of sample size, very important. I'll be coming back to this when we are actually constructing our chapter 3. We'll come back to this determining sample size because it is very, very important. Particularly for those of us who will be doing quantitative or mixed methods. Population size, margin of error, confidence level, variability in the population, sample size calculations, use formulas. We'll come to that then. So this is where I am, data analysis. First of all, qualitative data analysis involves non-numerical data, such as text, video, or audio, aims to identify patterns, themes, and meanings. This sounds easy. It is not. So when we say aims to identify themes and meanings, sounds easy, it is not. And focuses on understanding phenomenon from a subjective perspective. Subjective perspective. Now, when I see that, I'll be very keen on how you'll establish validity of your findings to overcome the subjectivity that you, being part of the tool, will have introduced in that study. Quantitative data analysis involves numerical data, and it aims to quantify variables and identify statistical relationships. Here, I want to really encourage students not to feel shy or fear around statistical relationships, because now we have packages. It's not like our days where you would sit in a room, you go to the mainframe, big computers, you get waste paper, tons and tons, you take to your room and you do all the calculations from 8 o'clock after supper to around 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning. Now it is much, much easier, but more intellectually demanding. But I want to assure our students that we are there to stand with you. We want to fortify data analysis in data. We want to fortify statistics. And we want to get some of you who are mathematically oriented to become graduate assistants so that you help in giving tutorials to both masters and PhD in this area. And we focus on objective measurement and numerical analysis. So that we shall do and should not be our problem. Qualitative data methods, thematic analysis, identifies and analyzes patterns or themes within qualitative data. If I was teaching this, I would have actually shown you how we come from patterns, categorization, and then get to tease out the various themes around whom or around which we will then do the discussion in our chapter 4. So steps include data familiarization, coding, theme development, and reporting. There's content analysis. I would really like to encourage some of you to read around this area. It is a little more specific, systematic coding and categorization of textual information, and aims to quantify the presence of certain words, themes, or concepts. And then there's discourse analysis, which I'll be inviting my colleagues after I finish this slide to come in. And studies written or spoken language, in its social context and focuses on how language is used to construct meaning and social relationships. Before I go to methods, I would like to invite any of us to amplify a little on content analysis for the class. Any of us, it could be students, it could be faculty from within DASTA or outside, because I'm aware we have other universities on the call. Could I have some input, some light? We are not doing the mechanics of chapter 3, but just some light on what is content analysis, what is discourse analysis, and what is thematic analysis in the area of qualitative studies. Over to members of faculty. And we thank God now on the platform we are at about 175. Considering people have just been called in, this is very encouraging. Mwaka, Dr. Mwaka, are you on the call? Are you seeing anybody coming up?
They lift up, you can raise your hands, but I have faculty from both DASTA and also that you can contribute. Students, please lift up your hands or you can open your mic. And, you know, anyone from DASTA or from outside DASTA, you can also contribute if you're a faculty member in addition to that. Professor Langmia, as they lift their hands, do you want to say something?
I think,
all right, let me say something.
Go ahead, Prof. Go ahead.
All right. There are two types of content analysis. There's quantitative content analysis and qualitative content analysis. Quantitative content analysis is, of course, you use quantitative measurable data, numerical data. But for qualitative content analysis, you actually use themes. And you also use text that could be either things like metaphor or synonyms or irony, etc. There are contentions between some scholars on qualitative content analysis and textual analysis. But I think that debate has already been resolved. So long as you map out your coding strategies and you do your subcoding to axial coding with the qualitative content analysis, you can at least even resolve that dilemma. So you use a coding sheet for qualitative content analysis. You use a coding sheet and then you come out with categories. And right now with online interview, in fact, I'll actually be talking about that on Monday, qualitative class with Dr. Kenya. With technology right now, especially digital technology and social media, our students are now doing online focus groups, and then they do qualitative content of the texts that they find, especially on social media. The same with online interview, whereby you have people spread all over the world, and you send questions to them, and then they send the answers through text. So you have to come up with a mapology in order to tease out the themes that are there. Yeah, so that's what I would say about qualitative content analysis, Prof.
Thank you. Dr. Radoli, I saw your name, hand up.
Yeah, thank you. And I greet all the members of this caucus, and thank you, Prof, for your insight to deliberation on methodologies. I just want to first highlight just a point about what Professor Langmia said on content analysis, but I've also wanted to just mention a few highlights on discourse analysis and as other forms of qualitative research. And also, I think amplify voice that we have a number of
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Othello?
Othello, okay. Thank you so much.
Eunice had asked a question also as well.
Who?
Eunice Wangari, but she can raise it. Othello?
Okay, thank you, Prof. Much of what I want to say is already has been touched on by.
Okay.
But I just wanted to add that content analysis in this situation, the research is situated in data which has already been written, something that is written, a written material which you are using now as your research. For example, you may be talking about how many times somebody or a newspaper has written about domestic violence. how many times have they used this, have they run stories on domestic violence in a particular period? For example, maybe we can say 2 to 3 years. Domestic violence, is it actually reported very well in our newspapers, so that you that content analysis, you can compare between Nation and Standard newspaper. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Eunice Wawira, I think please note that case studies traverse the two spaces. You can have if you're doing a case study in the qualitative sphere, then you'll be dealing with what type of tools for data collection. Questionnaire and secondary source and desk review and observation, they're all acceptable, but it depends on which is your research design. Yeah, so, and remember, case studies, you want an in-depth analysis over a given phenomenon or over a specific area, and it is up to you to tell us, are you entering that space as a positivist or a constructivist? Okay, let's carry on. Quantitative data analysis methods note apply statistical techniques to describe and infer from data. And it also includes descriptive statistics, the basics, and inferential statistics as the case might be. I would like to advise our PhD students who choose to go the quantitative way that please punish yourself to engage in statistics beyond the descriptive level so that we can see some inferential statistics that you're actually deepening meaning into the findings we are looking for. And that's why I was telling people, when you cannot construct, you cannot give birth to a hypothesis from your research questions or objectives, then I can't even talk about what kind of statistics are you going to look for. So inferential statistics with your supervisors, we should be able to direct you to say, first of all, we try to establish a correlation, and we can look for, Pearson's R. And then if we are interested, we can now go in to see who is more influential among those variables. We can throw out a regression model. We can take two groups and do establish an ANOVA test. We can do many things, but I repeat, at PhD level, we expect you to walk deeper into the swamp. So there are those regression analysis, fact analysis. This is an interesting area, but again, your supervisor should be able to direct you why you want to do a fact analysis, because it identifies underlying relationships between variables and reduces data to a small set of summary variables and identifies the structure in the relationship. So there must be a basis for this statistical approach you will adapt in your study. Then tools and software for data analysis, qualitative. Again, it depends on your supervisor. And there are also many, I want to advise, there are also many data analysis specialists. Sometimes it's better to get your data analyzed with the advice of your supervisor, then you do interpretation. And that doesn't make you weaker, but you'll have learned the essentials of statistics in the class. But nowadays, I want to insist that we actually understand these statistics so that even when we get into statistical packages and they're spitting out values and answers for us, we know the reasoning or the applications behind it. So that is in vivo, Atlas, and the rest for qualitative tools, quantitative tools. I tell people it sounds nice to say I'm using SAS, I'm using R, I'm using Python, but you know, it depends on the complexity of your data, and sometimes it's not even the complexity. If SPSS is easy to follow, use it. It doesn't dilute your strength as a researcher, even Excel. So be careful. Python and Stata are for advanced statistical and regression analysis, but I can still do a regression. Most of your studies, we can still do a regression just using SPSS. Mixed methods, of course, we will be integrating qualitative and quantitative data, but it depends on how we want to analyze. If we are doing it sequentially, then you can use SPSS. If you are doing it sequentially, there is no need to have a software that is going to integrate qualitative and quantitative data for you. It means you have to learn that software thoroughly. But if need be, we can get experts to support you in that area. So on data analysis, I want to leave it here until I get into actual case studies, actual mechanics of how we do data analysis, and we give an example, both qualitative and quantitative. But you must know that this is what
Prof,
lies. Yes, go ahead.
Prof, I have a question. My name is Soita.
Yeah.
My name is Soita. I'm not yet having a PhD, but a student of.
Go ahead. Soita, you're cutting.
Well, the first thing, the point of confusion for qualitative. You see, when you are qualitative, you are going to use focus group, discussion guide, or key informant guide. And then you are analyzing statements or text. Now, Dr. Radoli,
you are cutting. That's a, or is it me?
Content others. Now, in most cases, when you are doing the codes, when you are using qualitative software, you cannot see this difference. The difference comes where you are sourcing the information used, whether you are using video. But when you are doing the analysis using the software, whether it's in vivo, then you don't see that difference. What is important, if analyzing, then you are supposed to transfer that video content into normal text before you analyze. That is about qualitative, the comment I had. Then on a quantitative, or another lecture on this, people don't know how they collected data into a data sheet.
Wow.
Many people skip that. How do you?
Caro, I'm really struggling. I'm not getting him.
Yes, I'm also struggling, and I think he's out of net, but I think he's more of
before you can use it for analysis using this.
Can you advise him to write it out to us, and we'll pick it up?
Yes, Obiro, we can hear
yes, there is that.
And miss you out. We will definitely hear from you. You can type it out, but we know you are adding more of a comment and more as opposed to a question, which you can actually just input on the chat. I don't know if Dr. Pamela and Ayiro, you wanted to say something?
There's also Alvin.
Alvin, yes.
Prof, I'm coming again with a very simple question.
Go ahead, Alvin.
Regarding data analysis.
Yes.
Now, between data analysis and data cleaning, what comes first?
Cleaning.
Thank you. And when we are cleaning, what are we focusing on?
You are removing the outliers. You are removing things that are disfiguring your overall data. That is in quantitative. In qualitative, you are removing those items that don't align to the categories and the themes.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Asante, Prof.
All right.
Asante sana.
Okay.
Prof, is that Soita or Sobiero? Sobiero, we didn't have, we had a problem listening to you. If you can type or just for the last time, you can try to give it.
No, actually, that's not a Sobiero. That was a different person.
Okay, thank you so much.
My question is simple to Prof. And thank you, Prof, for taking us through.
Yeah.
We're really, as I said again, harvesting knowledge. Now, I would wish you elaborate how we would use theory to explain our data findings, or our, after data analysis, there is findings, and how do we use theory to explain our findings so that we make
your results.
Yeah, results. Yeah. That's what I mean, Prof.
Yeah. So
because I want us to see, for example, how we tie theory to what we have already collected data, and we've done the analysis and our findings. That's my question.
Good question. And that is the substance of chapter 4 and chapter 5. That is what is called discussion in research. That is what is called discussion. So once you have done your data analysis and there is interpretation of that analysis, we now have a discussion and we pull in the people we encountered in our literature review and what their studies said about the things I am dealing with in my study. And now I'm either at variance, or I concur, or there are points of difference that are emanating from the theory we used. So that's where we'll see your strength, by the way. For me, chapter 3, chapter 4, I begin to see an evolving researcher. And that will be seminar 4. Seminar 4 would be chapter 4 of the dissertation, and we'll go through it. Langme, you wanted to add something?
Yes, thank you again, Prof. I just want to, before I really help this researcher on that question, just to add on what you said, I wish to announce that there's a book that Professor Ayiro and I have written, which is particularly focusing on research method for African scholarship. That should be out in October. Some of these issues will be resolved there. So now let me just talk about these research questions. Research questions, and this is an issue worldwide. Please make sure that with your research question and theory or hypothesis, there are elements of the pre-existing theory in the research question and hypothesis, the variables in the hypothesis. And again, remember, models are welcome, because at this level, students don't create theories yet. You are only modeling. It has to be part of the variables, the dependent and independent variables of your research question or hypothesis. Then when you now collect data and you get the result in chapter 4, you now see whether you have extended the theory, you've seen whether you've challenged the theory, you've seen whether you've seen some loopholes with the theory, meaning a pre-existing theory. The same thing with models. So students don't know where to really place theory. They just discuss it in chapter 1 or sometime in chapter 2, but they don't know that they need elements of it in their research question. Otherwise, where are you testing the theory? Where? No, honestly, where are you testing the theory? The assumptions of the theory, where are you testing it? It has to be part of the variables. So I wanted to add that, Prof, that's all.
Yeah, thank you, and very valuable comments. I am, in fact, by the way, I'm going to be very radical in my chapter 3, the mechanics of chapter 3, because what we have done in the past is students go to chapter 3 and they write research methodology. They don't have a section of overview of the chapter. And in the overview of the chapter, you must bring back, you must tell us what was your research problem, what is the purpose, and which are your research questions. In a summary, it might be half a page or whatever, but you must constantly bring this, and you're not writing anything new. You are just bringing what you wrote in chapter 1 and in chapter 2 and bringing it here. We must begin to make our research not to be regimented at expert level. You know, when I write my chapter 3 myself, I can summarize and go straight to the research design. But I know the underpinnings. But you are an aspiring researcher. So we want you to keep carrying those research questions and research objectives and hypotheses, and having the courage to show how they are sitting within the framework of your theory. But we'll get there. Ethics, again, is an area that we need to be sensitive to as a university and as researchers in Africa, because moral principles that guide researchers how to conduct and report research without deception or intentional bias. I have subscribed to a site that is targeting people who are writing all kinds of research papers and research experiments, but they are deceptive. So there's somebody who has now dedicated his life, not on predatory journals, but getting into those studies and bringing them out and saying why those results are not true. So let us be sensitive to this. Why is it important? It ensures the protection of the participants' rights, maintains the integrity and credibility of the research process, promotes trust between researchers and participants and within the broader community, and prevents misconduct and ensures adherence to legal and professional standards. So it's an ethical and legal imperative of research. Key ethical issues, I'm just summarizing. And so when you're writing your chapter 3, we want this dealt with in detail. Informed consent, tell us that how you got informed consent, that it was voluntary, there was clear communication, and that the participants were well briefed on the nature and purpose of the research. Then there is confidentiality, the privacy of the participants. Personal identifiers should be removed or anonymized to protect participants' identities, secure storage and handling of data to prevent unauthorized access. So you must write on those aspects under confidentiality. You don't just say, I will ensure confidentiality. That is too shallow. Data protection, adherence to data protection laws and regulations, implementing measures to ensure data security, encryptions and secure storage, ensure data is used solely for the purposes outlined in the research protocol and not misused. So again, when you are telling us about data protection, you must write about this vis-a-vis your study. You're not talking about your study. I don't want to see generic chapters on this ethical considerations, that you can actually take your chapter you have written and plant it into Roslyn's study and plant it into Kariuki's study, and it will still hold. So you must write under these items what you are doing in your own research. Addressing ethical concerns, the ethical review boards, please make sure you are sensitive to that right now. Submitting research proposals to the institutional review boards and the DASTA is a licensed body. So your review of your documents will be done here before we take it to the National Council and NACOSTI. And then ensuring that all ethical aspects are reviewed and addressed before research begins. Ethical training, providing researchers with training on ethical guidelines and best practices. I think this is now up to the director of postgraduate studies. Let us do some very short courses on training and even give certification and keep updated with changes in ethical standards and regulations. So this is an area we need to emphasize. Transparent reporting research findings.
On ethical.
Yes, please.
Yeah, something on ethics, something on the ethical considerations. Prof, there are some things that escape the scrutiny of ethical committees.
Yes.
And here I have in mind one study in which one case in which two friends, one borrowed a thesis done at University of Maseno to more or less have a look at how it looks like, copied it and reproduced it at University of Nairobi. Wow. However, the owner caught up with that. The matter went to court and she was ordered not to graduate using that work.
Yeah.
Here, there was also another case at the University of Eldoret, where a student that was in biomedical research presented fictitious data on the efficacy of a drug called nevirapine in preventing mother-to-child HIV infection.
Wow.
In fact, the paper had been sent out for publication with some scholars from different institutions. But then now, when it came to checking the ethics review clearance, then Moi University said they had not cleared the paper.
Yeah.
And then when NACOSTI further investigated, it found out that this student never went to the site that he had cited, the site from which he purportedly collected the data.
Wow.
Yeah, the last example was a PhD student at the University of Gulu who also did a deception. He purported to have collected data from certain institutions, and it turned out that he never went there, he never collected. All he was presenting was fictitious data. Now, some of these ethical practices can actually escape the scrutiny of ethical review committees. Thank you.
I really love that. I mean, I'm very grateful, Prof, because you are actually giving examples to drill the message home that you can end up with serious consequences. I am aware also of the one of Kenyatta University, where the person was disqualified for just lifting. There are several, but can the students on this platform, really take ethical concerns seriously and just labor for your work and leave the rest to God? That's the moral ecology I was talking about. That's the commitment I was talking about. Loving your work and every bit of it, you want to understand it. I also want to
Prof, if you don't mind, if I could just contribute to an issue of social media. Most of our students of our clinical psychology usually go to sites, usually that have clinical samples. When we talk about clinical samples, we're talking about samples of participants who have mental challenges or issues that we are trying to look at the effectiveness of various therapies, whether they work or not. One day I'm on social media after this student is almost graduating, and she has posted all her participants' photos of the kids or the clinical sample that she is undertaking the trials. And I take note of that. And already, the ethical issues said confidentiality, but on social media, I don't think she really literally knew that this is actually wrong. She has posted her clinical sample of all her children on the social media at various therapies. I had to write to the coordinator, request the coordinator to ask the student to pull out the social media, apologize, and bring to the attention of the students in clinical psychology and all other students that once you've talked about confidentiality, even social media, you cannot post your clinical samples, your clinical participants into your social media. It is very wrong. And that is what I wanted to contribute because of the social media and the anxiety. And as I also finish, we respect some professors. We note that it's Professor Jones Angwata. I think, I don't know from which university, but the professor is free to contribute to this discussion. And thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you very much. And I hope our students, you're noting that. We want to train you. We want you to walk in our steps after we are retired and stand strong. And this area of ethical considerations. And that's why when I see a very scanty half a page narrative around ethical considerations, I get very worried. So we will put emphasis on this moving forward. There's a student with the name, is it Sobiero again? Sobiero? Is it Sobiero? What's the name?
Yes, my name is Samuel Obiero, Prof.
Oh, Samuel.
And I'm actually at the proposal level, if I may introduce myself.
Okay.
Proposal level of PhD, doing project planning and management from the University of Nairobi.
Yes.
So these ethical considerations, I wanted to have a contribution because I wanted to learn something in terms of we have several students at the proposal stage. And I'm aware a prof has mentioned something about maybe somebody mimicking your work or lifting your work and taking it as your work, because we are dealing with the ethical concerns. My question is, what are the safety nets in terms of, I have this idea, I'm driving this agenda in terms of my research. This is my investigation, and what concrete measure does institution have to take in terms of protecting me as a researcher? I've come up with a title or a topic which is probably sensational, or a topic which is most current, emerging issues, or captivating in nature. But because I'm a researcher, I'm required to get the stakeholders in terms of involvement of different people who need to look at my work. What protection and what are we supposed to take in terms of if we find such a happening?
Yeah,
a person has lifted my work.
Yeah, the measures, Obiero, are drastic for any serious university. I don't want to mention what happened at Moi because I was at the reign then, when we had a group of students who, after, for example, finishing coursework and doing their proposals, they then jumped to another university. And we raised that matter at the highest level, and all those students were disqualified, 5 of them. So these are matters some of us take almost as being sacrosanct, and the necessary sanctions would be taken. But what is this symptomatic of? It is symptomatic of work that has not been ensheathed in an authentic and committed drive. That's why I was going to say, when I read your work, if I'm supervising your PhD or master's, I read your work and you see me saying, this work looks too generic, and I see you struggling to remain in that space, I begin to worry. Because I'm trying to convince you that looking at your topic, looking at your objectives, you are not engaged in research here. So when I see, some kind of reluctance and what, I begin to get worried, because you have a preconceived mind. But if you work with your supervisor, the originality of your work then becomes a possession of the three of you. And then you not find these kind of things that we're talking about. I would like to leave it at that point, but I would like to welcome, we have some faculty, Elizabeth Isa from Amref University, and Professor Jonas Agwata is the Director of Research, Innovation and Technology Transfer at Machakos, and all other external audiences. You are welcome to this platform, and we feel honored and valued. Yeah, so I don't want to go to Dr. Kano and the others, but I'm just raising our standard here. By the way, when there is commitment, when there is love for our work, both me as your supervisor and you as my student, it will be very hard for somebody to masquerade or come around that work. Because I can talk about your work as if it's mine, and you can talk about my supervision as if you are the supervisor. Yeah, but that is noted. All right. We want to move a little faster.
Prof,
Yes.
Something small on that.
Go ahead, yes. And then there is Elizabeth Kisa and Angeline Mabu after Professor Wekesa. Yes.
Yeah, just 2 comments on that, Prof. Number one, the researcher must be very vigilant with his or her own work.
Yes.
See, this idea of saying, oh yeah, now I'm researching on this, I have reached here, now I've read this, I've done that. You may be talking to someone who is struggling to get a topic, and they can very easily run away with your topic. So this calls for some care, a lot of care in that respect. And then now, in terms of the authenticity of the work, Prof, what I have personally found a little helpful is that when a student comes up with a proposal or say this chapter, say I have written this, then I say, well, very well, let's put it aside. Now talk about it. I actually came across one who was not able to talk about her work, and I dismissed it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. We have hands up. There is Fanis and the other two. Go ahead.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Professor Ayiro.
Yes.
Mine was a follow-up on the other question, which was asked about protection of our work. I'm a PhD student at DESTA. And I was just thinking, like the previous colleague, we had a concern. I remember we are presenting our concept paper, we are presenting our proposal. So it goes through different stages. And I think that was the concern, as much as I'm vigilant. But remember, we're doing this presentation to our colleagues, the fellow students, and at times even to the external audience. So I think that was like, that's what I got from that concern.
Okay. Who is that? I'm not seeing your name here.
That was Fanis.
Okay, Fanis. Thank you very much. That's a valid one. There was Elizabeth.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Prof, for the invitation. Thank you for putting together this lecture. Thank you so much for all that you have given us. And just a comment on ethical concerns and even the need for us students to be able to begin our work early and not having the mindset in our heads that research is hard. I have collected data. I've worked as a research assistant for a few years now, and it's interesting and very, very informative when we work with our supervisors to be able to do what is required of us, and clearing the mindset, running away from the mindset, walking away from the mindset that research is hard, and where we are able to go out there to the field, collect authentic data, putting in place all the requirements to protect the participants. There are many, many short courses out here that one can do in order to enhance your skills. Even as you put together your work, you write your work. They are free out here. There is Family Health International, FHI. There is NHI, National Institute of Health. There are quite a number. I can't remember the other one, but then with these skills that we acquire, then we are able to put into from hooking data, so to speak, or falsifying data or plagiarizing. I believe, even as I echo this, as I finish my comment, the ethical review boards, different ethical review boards need to get out and go follow up. How is this particular study being done in the field? Somebody has written, they will be able to do a mixed method study, for example. Are they following through what they're doing? But thank you so much, Prof. I'm listening in, following everything.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think we have made the point, but we don't leave it there. We have got to work very hard to ensure authenticity, originality, and I would urge my students that we can together walk into a very original piece of work, and that will empower you other than taking those shortcuts. And normally what happens is that when you go through those shortcuts, you'll have to keep reminding people you don't have a master's, you don't have a PhD, because they can't see it in you. Addressing ethical concerns, transparent reporting, reporting research findings honestly and transparently, disclosing any potential conflicts of interest or biases. Participant support, offering support and counseling to participants if needed, especially in sensitive research, and providing debriefing sessions to explain the research outcomes and address any participant concerns. And this participant support, I want to encourage most of you to do a good research. You need resources, you need a budget. So participant support even gets into mundane things like providing meals for a focus group, providing transport, providing airtime for communication or for internet for them if you're doing an online questionnaire and so on. But more importantly, offer support and counseling and have debriefing sessions. So ladies and gentlemen, we will look at this in an actual study, how you craft your ethical concerns section in chapter 3. So this is a mind map I've worked on, and I love mind maps. They have enabled me, even in my management, like now we are going to Mombasa, I've already done a mind map of what my Senate is going to discuss in Mombasa, and my student leaders, the DUSA leadership of the ISTA. We have 2 meetings with them. I have summarized, I've put a mind map and I keep juggling around with it and adding things on it. So look at this, ethical considerations, the importance of ethics. I'm able to see that. Protects participants' rights, maintains research integrity, promotes trust, prevents misconduct. Addressing ethical issues, the ethical review board, ethical training, transparent reporting, participant support. Key ethical issues, informed consent, confidentiality, data protection. And under informed consent, full disclosure, voluntary participation, right to withdraw. Confidentiality, data security, anonymizing data, and privacy protection. And then data protection, proper data usage, data security measures, and compliance with the laws. So this is something, if I'm supervising my students, I would give them this mind map, and they keep ticking off as they write me that chapter on ethical considerations. It is us supervisors to put emphasis that we will create the awakening we are looking for here. Very briefly, unit of analysis that closes our chapter 3. I just want you to note that the unit of analysis is the main entity that is being studied in a research project. It is the what or whom being analyzed. So you must tell us, who is your unit of analysis, or what is your unit of analysis? Determines the scope and focus of the study, influences the research design, data collection methods and analysis techniques, and ensures clarity and consistency in how data is interpreted and conclusions are drawn. I have seen PhDs with one sentence. The unit of analysis in this study was Kakamega Referral Hospital. Full stop. Doesn't talk about the significance in terms of scope and focus, in terms of research design and data collection methods and analysis techniques, and so on. So examples of units of analysis: individuals, studies focusing on single persons, their behaviors, attitudes, and characteristics. Example, a study of the health behaviors of teenagers. So the unit of analysis here would be our teenagers here. Groups, studies focusing on groups of individuals such as families, teams, institutions, or communities, e.g. research on teamwork dynamics in a corporate setting. So that is your unit of analysis. Organizations, studies focusing on organizations such as companies, non-profits, or government agencies. Examples, analyzing the effectiveness of different organizational structures. Countries, studies focusing on nations or regions, often involving comparative analysis, East African community, or Kenya and Uganda, Kenya and Tanzania education system, comparing educational systems across different countries. So unit of analysis must come out clearly. So now, how do you choose the appropriate unit of analysis for your study? The research questions. Notice what we are saying. You must put the research questions in your brain, in your stomach, in your pockets, in your shoes. So align the unit of analysis with the research questions. For example, if studying individual behaviors, choose individuals as the unit of analysis. Then the theoretical framework. Consider the theoretical perspective and ensure the unit of analysis fits within this framework. So it is very, very important. Sometimes we pick theories that are so far removed from the unit of analysis that then they don't support our research questions or our hypothesis or even our objectives. Choosing the appropriate unit of analysis for your study, data availability. Ensure that data is accessible and reliable for the chosen unit of analysis. Level of analysis, decide whether the study requires micro-level individuals or macro-level organizations, countries for analysis. And then study objectives, define what the study aims to achieve and choose the unit of analysis that best supports those objectives. I hope you are seeing we are not leaving research questions and objectives and the theoretical framework. We are working with it throughout our chapter 1, our chapter 2, our chapter 3, our chapter 4, our chapter 5. So in conclusion, on the framework, just to recap the key points, research methodology encompasses philosophical underpinnings, research design, data analysis, data collection, and data analysis. Understanding these components is crucial for conducting valid and reliable research. So we are going to punish you. We are going to make you toil until our chapter 3 is spoken to by chapter 1 and 2. That I will insist. Ethical considerations are essential to protect participants and maintain research integrity. I want to emphasize the interconnectedness of methodology components. All components of research methodology are interconnected and influence each other. So philosophical underpinnings guide the choice of the research design and data collection methods. The unit of analysis determines the appropriate data analysis techniques, and ethical considerations are integral to every step of the research process. So there is interconnectedness. And we want to stop being artificial at Daystar and by extension to the other universities. Nataka wanafunzi wakifanya utafiti, hili somo la utafiti, wakimaliza kuandika hiyo thesis yao, wawe wamenoga. Ukianza kama wanajeshi, unaanza chapter 1, anakuambia yale ambayo yamo katika chapter 1. Chapter 2, anazungumza mambo yale ambayo ameandika katika chapter 2, including theoretical framework and the summary. Chapter 3, anakutembeza kwa hizi viwango vyote. Then we release them to go for data collection. Dr. Mwaka, is there a hand raised up?
Yes, Ndelu.
Good evening, Professor.
Good evening, sorry, yeah.
Thank you so much for this discourse. I'm glad you touched on the unit of analysis, and I have something to write tonight. Yes. And then also just to enrich my ethical consideration. I have just something to ask you in regards to diagnostic.
Yeah.
To touch something on it, be very critical.
You are
Somehow
cutting.
you went faint.
Sorry, I was just saying if we can touch something on diagnostic test. Oh, that is clear.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Diagnostic test vis-a-vis ethics or unit of analysis?
Unit of analysis.
Yeah, okay. I think most of our diagnostic tests will go to the individual items in the analysis. And in my examples, which I'm going to start on, we have random trial tests. I've deliberately picked that so that we can see the unit of analysis being individuals, but stratified into certain demographics. So we'll use that as an example. So I wouldn't get into that now, but I like that forward thinking. I know what is troubling you there, but we'll look at that in seminar number 4. So encourage thorough understanding and application of methodology in research. And this, I'm not talking to faculty or my colleagues. I'm talking to my students. Encourage thorough understanding and application. And one of the things we must, I don't know how we'll do it. When you are doing research methodology, even when you're constructing your topic, be prepared for that topic to be tossed up and down. When we come to the research questions, the objectives, the purpose, the rationale, the significance, all those areas will be thoroughly bashed. So I'm saying thorough understanding of research methodology enhances the quality and credibility of the research. And applying the right methodology ensures the research questions are effectively addressed. And researchers should stay updated on best practices and ethical standards. You, the students, and us as supervisors. And that ends my framework for chapter 3. And I would like to really appreciate the 177 we have on the platform this evening, although you got a late call. But I just want to show you what I want to do. I will not do it because I'm seeing it's already coming to 8:15, and so when I stop to allow for questions. But I want you to note, this is what I want to do. This is what I would like to do, God willing and God giving me the energy. I now would like to go into the mechanics of constructing chapter 3. The mechanics of constructing chapter 3. Let me see. Yeah, this one. And should have stopped sharing. Let me see, share. This one. What I would like us to do in our seminar 4, now that we have the architecture and the theory of chapter 3, my objective is to enable the readers to write their chapter 3. And I want to say this, in the introduction, we will have an introduction and an overview. In this chapter of their dissertation, the researcher reintroduces the topic and reinstates or retaliates the research problem as the basis for the study. I'm talking about threading, I'm talking about emphasis. The chapter provides another introduction and overview of the research topic, and this section mirrors chapter 1, so the content should be exactly the same as the content in chapter 1. There should not be any difference between them. So the researcher does not have to reinvent the wheel. The section of chapter 1 should be easy to develop. The main points and directions are these. These are the main points or the key points that the master's and doctoral researchers should consider when developing the introduction and the overview section. You will reintroduce the dissertation topic. You will provide an overview of what is contained in the chapter. And look at this, the writing length will be a minimum of 3 to 4 paragraphs, or approximately 1 page. So when I say you are introducing, I'm not saying you are going to rewrite, you are going to summarize succinctly. Tell us what the research problem, the topic and the research problem is, once again, and tell us what is contained in this chapter. By following these key points, you'll be able to develop the introduction and overview section of the chapter. I am not taking anything for granted. I am not going to say, go and write chapter 3. No. So I'm giving you an example of introduction and overview. So the purpose of the study, for example, The purpose of this study is to investigate how field workers in agriculture industries in a rural area in Rift Valley in Kenya feel about their working conditions. The participants describe their experiences and reflect on the challenges of field work, the challenges of professional mentoring, and the challenges of access to agricultural resources for their job. Ayiro and Sang 2015 study. And the job. Ayiro and Sang, somebody asked, are we going to do referencing? Yes. Examined field workers from 2 companies in Rift Valley. Actually, this was in Kericho. And Kericho and in Eldoret, the wheat farmers. And some of these studies have indicated that networking for field workers plays a direct role in empowering those within the network in achieving job success. So, although previous researchers have established a relationship between agriculture work and job satisfaction, this relationship is also noted to improve field worker morale, and we are citing this. I don't want to go into this because that's where we shall start in Seminar 4. And then we go on to say, therefore, a qualitative descriptive design will lead the researcher to investigate their experiences. Overview of the chapter. What does this chapter do? This chapter presents the problem statement and delineates the research questions under investigation. This chapter discusses the research methodology, the philosophical underpinnings of the study, the research design of the study, and the participants. This chapter also presents details regarding the sample selection and the sources of data for the study. Next, the chapter outlines how the study will address the trustworthiness of the data collected, validity, reliability, in addition to how the data will be analyzed. Ethical considerations will then be discussed. These considerations will ensure the protection of the participants and support the integrity of the research. Lastly, the limitations and delimitations of the study will be reviewed, followed by a summary of the main points of the chapter. I want you to note that allow me to be Samuel Mbeyu, my maths teacher. I will not assume you know how to construct the overview of chapter 3. We shall do the mechanics. And then main points and directions for you. And I even indicate the kind of pages I want to see there. And then we move on. The research statement and research questions. We must bring them up. And I'm showing how we'll do them for qualitative studies, quantitative studies, and qualitative studies. And then research alignment. What do we want to do? We must align. Alignment is defined as the logical progression of ideas between the structural elements of your dissertation proposal. And one of the most important factors to keep in mind is that alignment between your problem statement, purpose statement, and research questions is critical. And the research alignment tool is used to help you align. I've even given an example of a research alignment tool. And then we have given an example of how you condense the problem statement, the purpose statement, the research questions. I've given examples based on that study, and then we come to the research methodology. And we go through the main points of research methodology. What do we want to see? The selected methodology, the rationale, and so on. And we give you the pages. And then we give you an example of how to construct the research methodology. And then we go to the research design. And we give you the main points and how it will be done. This is my intention, that after doing that, we shall have chapter 3's worthy of the kind of students you are. Because many of you are extremely endowed intellectually, and we want to take. So we'll go through, you can see population sample and techniques. I have written actual examples. Even what do I want you to see? What do I want to see you do under population sample and sampling techniques? I want you to describe the population, describe the target population, describe the unit of analysis, describe the process of securing site authorization, all of that, so that you are guided as my student. And then I've given an example of how you would construct population sample and sampling techniques. Like that, up to the instrumentation. An example of instrumentation for quantitative, where we now get into the kind of instruments, and we have also done for qualitative in this example. And qualitative instruments, qualitative interviews, how do you write it out? Demographics, and so on and so forth, until we come to data analysis. So I'm still writing the chapter. Data management protocols, data survey protocols, how you collect your data, then we shall go to data analysis. Over to you, Mwaka. Thank you very much.
All right. I think use an emoji to clap for Prof as we come to almost the closure of this particular session. Just use there. I know it is very difficult to clap, but today we want to definitely have some of us, because of time. I know all of you have so many things to tell Prof, but always we try to choose three different people just to be able to give their remarks so that they can tell all of us. You have enjoyed chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, and now we are moving towards chapter 4 and 5. I want to welcome 3 students, and I've mentioned your name so that we have Florence Macho, beginning as off. Desmond, you know why we pick you always, because you're not just a student, but you're also a council member in Daystar University and also a student at Daystar. And then, of course, we want Soita, that is a different university, to be able to give remarks on your own view. We have faculty members from different, but we first give priority to our director, postgraduate students, Dr. Dina Keino, who is always sitting in these sessions, numerous, every single, even before she was a postgraduate director. She's been sitting in throughout. Professor Moni Wekesa, you've never missed. You always come to support in. And of course, we have one faculty from outside, Professor Aguata. You can. So let's go in that order. Yes, Macho. And if you can put on a video, it will be nice now as we close. Thank you. Others, you can make your comments down there. Yes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ayiro. Always an inspiration in our class. The first inaugural class on leadership and policy. We have enjoyed having Prof in our first semester, second semester. He's still with us, holding our hands. And I like how, Prof, you give yourself. This is not normal. For those of us, you know, you've been an undergraduate student in a different university, or even just experienced different faculty. What we have experienced as students within the leadership and policy class is utterly special and priceless, where you have a VC committed to his students performing. And there's a statement he says, and correct me if I'm wrong, Prof, but there's a statement you say that we should not play in the sidelines. We should get in the middle and play in there. That has never left me. So every time I feel like I'm holding back, I remember I'm not supposed to be playing in the sidelines. So thank you very much for giving yourself. This is not normal, students, the fellow students from Daystar University. This is not normal, but this is a mark of leadership. So the students within the leadership and policy class, we are learning not just in class, but we are learning from Prof on how to be better leaders. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Desmond.
Prof, thank you very, very much. You know, you started us from chapter 1, and you keep talking about threading and consistency in the connectivity between chapter 1, your statement of problem, your objectives of study. Moving on to chapter 2, your literature review, the connectivity between the your variables which you're looking at in your literature review, and you are very clear about separating this issue of having a general literature review and empirical literature review, and then threading that right through to chapter 3, where you've taken us to through the theoretical mechanisms of the data analysis, your research strategy. You know, Prof, it can't skip my mind. It's ontology plus epistemology is equals research philosophy. I mean, Prof, I mean, even if you walk on the streets remembering that, it's one thing which is stuck into our mind. What is ontology? What is epistemology? And you can't do any research without having your research philosophy per se. Prof, of course, the amount of work you've put in, you know, right up to today, when we started looking at the data analysis methodology, it's exciting, Prof. In fact, somebody like me, I know you were talking about my paper at some point, where you're talking about I'm struggling. I punish myself. I'm excited. I want to engage with you. I want to see what you have for me. I want to see your corrections. I want to spend another 3 weeks not sleeping, Prof, because you're exciting us about research methodology. And I want to thank you for that. And, you know, I wish all supervisors were like you, exciting, going out of your way. It's 8:30 and you're in Kisumu going to stop some tribal clashes in Nyangori. So it's exciting. So, Prof, we just, on behalf of all those who are here, some of my classmates are here, and actually on behalf of the whole congregation, and I'm not only going to talk about this as a council member, but I am humbled. I'm humbled to be sitting with the master. So thank you very much, Prof. May God just give you more energy, out there, wherever you are, you've been with us. May God give you more energy, and we pray for you all the time. And you're making research be exciting. So, Professor Mwaka, also thank you very much for coordinating all this on behalf and on our behalf. So thank you very, very much, and do have a good evening, Prof. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Desmond, I have your work here.
In Kisumu.
I hope you enjoy it, Prof. It's not my work.
I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it.
It's not my work, it's our work, Prof. I'm reminding you.
If you carry your work to Kisumu, that's really also
I'm seeing commitment. I'm seeing a lot of commitment. Keep it up. Yeah. Okay. Next, Carol.
Soita from your end. Soita, if Soita is not on, we will definitely. Okay, Soita, you can talk. You don't have to pick to do the. Yes, go ahead.
I can talk now.
That's fine.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Prof, and the other team that has taken us through. My name is Soita. I'm from University of Nairobi. I'm a student. At the same time, I teach at the Technical University of Kenya as assistant lecturer. So I have some experience teaching business statistics and research methods also. And I have an opportunity to have worked with the various government projects, this non-academic research, where I have been involved in doing reports and designing data collection instruments.
Okay.
So I wanted to commend the team for organizing this. Today I've joined at chapter 3. When you started at chapter 1, I was not aware. Chapter 2, I was not aware. I was only aware through Charles Melak Olo, who is our colleague at the Technical University of Kenya. But I appreciate the progress you have made so far and the approach in training postgraduate students through this way. I especially appreciate Professor Ayiro's framework, the design of the training, the plan itself. It looks very good. And I've been following very keenly and trying to see whether what I already know and what I don't know, whether I will be able to see the gaps and whether I learn more. Now, I was in the research conference just last week, which was organized by Commission for University Education, and I also listened to several discussions. I appreciate that. I've learned a lot. Now, I have suggested that next time when you have another session like this, you need to talk about data preparation for both quantitative and qualitative research.
Okay.
Because this is where the gap is. And I've also been supervising some undergraduate students where you find that students dodge this. You as a supervisor, you may not know exactly how the student did data preparation, either for qualitative or quantitative. In most cases, our students outsource their work. Even PhD students, they do outsource their work. So they don't really understand how to do data preparation for quantitative data. For instance, we talk of cleaning of data and coding of data and preparation of the data sheet. So that's very, very important. Then I would like you also to discuss something on academic versus non-academic research. Why? Because universities have started doing what we call having what we call income generating activities. Now, these income generating activities, we cannot just generate it from academic research alone, like our professors get funded, but we cannot do an academic research, which means that we have to support the government in doing policies and other things, other types of reports. Now, my PhD is in operations management. That is a Doctor of Business Administration, specializing in operations management. Is a new field, which is being introduced by universities. Like Chuka University recently called me to review. They are introducing PhD operations. But the reason why I'm mentioning this, I would like to have an external supervisor, probably. But external supervisors in that area of economics, they are available, but in operations management seems to be a new field.
Okay.
Now, the last comment I want to make is on something known as favored technique syndrome. Favored technique syndrome is favored technique syndrome. You are favoring regression. For example, most students want to use regression. Now, you cannot just use regression unless your research is about relationships. Some researches are not about relationships. Some researches are about comparing things. Some researchers will require what you call experimental design. So if you are using experimental design, you must be using either t-test or ANOVA. And then you are comparing means. You cannot use regression. So unless now there is some proper training here, because I have seen most students just keep on talking about relationships, relationship between these factors and this factor, the relationships between independent variables and dependent variables. Not all researchers follow that, except I want to stop. You need to discuss more about the various research designs and where they are appropriate.
Okay.
I think that can come in the next discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. A lot of points that Carol, I hope you have taken notes, the coordinator, particularly data preparation. We can, as we go to, before we jump to chapter 4, we can clean up that area. But you see, what Soita is saying, you know what you are saying, Soita, is that we are teaching research methods very badly. Yeah, because everybody is jumping on just looking at research questions. I know what you can try to measure in terms of causality, either a regression analysis, an ANOVA, or an F statistic, or a t-test. I know where causality comes in, but how about a student who comes to you and says, I have 4 research questions and I have 4 hypotheses, and one of them is identify or assess. There's no relationship. So you wonder, even just a correlation can't come out, a descriptive correlation, that there is a relationship. So yeah, we'll take note of that. Thank you very much. Carol, time is running, maybe 2 minutes each
Yeah, the rest faculty members, they understand what time means. Dr. Keino, Professor Angwata, Professor Moni, and I think Kisi University had the highest number of faculty attending, Dr. Rosa Otieno. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mwaka, for this opportunity. Mine is just to thank Prof once more for, I really admire your energy and consistency. In fact, like today, when Carol told me we need to remind the students to log in, I was like, oh, is it there again? And Prof, thank you so much for the energy. I don't know where you get the energy, but may God continue to give you grace and strength to continue offering the same. I want to also encourage students. Now we are done with chapter 3, or we are almost done with chapter 3. Remember, we have to see results. We have to see the outcome. Let us encourage the VC by ensuring that actually we work on our proposals. Let the thesis management system be very busy with students applying to defend their proposals. So please ensure that because we have targets, we want to graduate numbers and we want to see the outcome. So it is not just about training and then we leave it at this. So we want to encourage, and I want to specifically request that we actually work on our documents, follow our supervisors, ensure that we are doing it and doing it and doing it every day, so that we have targets as the directors, deans, to ensure that we actually graduate and you go and do other things out there. So thank you so much, Prof, and may God bless you. Thank you so much, Mwaka. Asanteni sana.
Thank you so much, Professor Angwata.
Dr. Keino is our Director of Postgraduate Studies. She has very high targets because we would like to make a difference. And Keino, I'm doing this to support you, and we shall support you until we see DESTA become a postgraduate, a research university. Yeah.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Prof. Agwata?
Yes. I appreciate the fact that I was able to join a little late, though, because I think there was a technical issue from my end. But let me admit here that I got to know about this through my PhD student, who is part of the audience. And so I am very happy, Professor Ayiro. I am aware the kind of storms you faced earlier, but I think it was for the good. And so congratulations that at your level, that you can spare time to do what is extraordinary. And so we thank God for you that you can spare your time when you should be playing golf, perhaps. But here you are with us, and I think that is very commendable. Secondly, I would want to be part of this conversation going forward. One, because I have been associated with DESTA before when I used to conduct some part-time at the main campus in Athi River. But I am closely associated with your PhD program in development studies, because I was invited to be part of the audience when it was being launched. And when I came over, oh my goodness, it was impressive. And I am sure that going forward, I will be part and parcel of your institution and the way you are redesigning it so that it takes its lead from the front for the others to follow. Then finally, this conversation is very useful, especially for those students who are lost in the forest of research and they don't know what to do. And considering that there are many masqueraders out in the market who pretend that they can write PhDs even when they did not even do a national diploma. And this is really a very sad situation. And so, Prof, thank you so very much. The organizers, thank you so very much. And I am sure I have provided my email addresses so that I am part and parcel of this conversation going forward. God bless you, and God bless DESTA University. Thank you.
Thank you, Agwata. We really appreciate. I like your spirit. And that's what God is asking of us, to empty ourselves for his kingdom. So I'm urging everybody, let's empty ourselves and Kenya will become richer. Thank you. Carol, back to you.
Right, thank you. So Dr. Ross and then Professor Moni, you'd be last, and you ensure that the internet is good and pray and dispatch us. So Ross, Dr. Ross Otieno from Kisii University. You can remove the video. You could be struggling with the internet. All right, Ross, continue so that we cannot hear you.
I think is
all right. All right, Ross, you seem to struggle with the internet. I'll give it to Professor Dr. Moni Wekesa.
Yeah, thank you for this opportunity. I just want to say that research methods is usually a nightmare for many a postgraduate student, and yet mastery of the same is the key to success in an academic life. So anyone anyone here who is struggling with that is not unique. It happens to very many researchers, but then aim at mastering the method so that one is able to move on in the future with confidence. I want to thank Professor Ayiro for taking time out to just focus on this, and I think this is the way to go. Thank you very much. Now, let us pray. Father, we thank you for this time. We thank you for bringing us together. We thank you for the opportunity to congregate and share ideas. We thank you for the opportunity to meet and learn. We thank you for the opportunity, even that you've given to Professor Ayiro, to spare time to present and share his knowledge with a wide congregation. Father, I want to pray for every member here present and their families. Bless them. I want to pray for students who are trying to learn and practice research methods. Give them wisdom, O Lord. Open their minds that they may see what they need to do. They may see even greater things than what is available in the literature at the moment. I want to pray for Daystar University. I want to pray for management of the university. I want to pray for all those involved. I want to pray for Dr. Keino as she takes up her new role. Help her, Lord, and bless our Father. Lord, this time I ask that you dismiss us with a blessing. In Jesus' name I pray.
Amen.
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 Thank you so much, Prof. Everybody, we shall be sending an email on the next seminar. We hope to come send on time. Bye.
Thank you.
Amen.